When determining the correct ratio for support workers for any given individual, not only are we looking at the risk assessment and the types of situations that can come up, but also planning around unforeseen circumstances like an employee becoming sick and making sure that there's backup for that support worker also. That can be tricky when the staff pool can be limited, but first and foremost with our program coordinators or team leads, you might call them, we make staffing the real priority. If there aren't enough staff there, then it's virtually impossible to be effective, because then you have the coordinator or the team lead working frontline instead of working on hiring, training, educating and following up with incidents. And so the first priority of any supervisor is finding enough staff so that if somebody is injured or sick or just can't come to work, that they themselves are not stuck doing the frontline work, because they cannot be effective in their role when they're in that position. And so the safety culture needs to be built into the organization itself in terms of there shouldn't ever be a point where nobody has somebody else that they can call. So there should be somebody else that they can call at any time. As far as the training there, it's also a matter of staying on top of it as well. We have found that it's not enough for the support workers to be in an environment where it could happen and they get their training once. These things expire for a reason, so keeping the staff up to date on their training, taking them through actual drills again so that their body memory is going to be able to handle that when it comes up. We go a little bit further than that at Scope also, in that while you might have this training in the classroom, it's very different in the real world environment. It does not go by textbook, and so we try to improve things a bit further in that we also offer something that we just call full speed CPI, which means that we run drills where multiple instructors will take the role of acting out, that's the bridge over there, your job is to stop me from getting to that bridge, and they actually act this out in full tilt running, and the support workers have to demonstrate, can I stop this instructor from getting to the so-called bridge? And then that way people are able to gain that confidence too, and have a better appreciation of what they'll need to do in that instance. That's both keeping the individual safe without hurting them, keeping themselves safe, and they have some idea of how complicated it is to actually stop an individual from, say, running into traffic or whatever it might be, because these things can and very easily come up. Part of safety culture is the reporting. It only works well if you know what's going on. And so the first step in the reporting is making sure that it's going to the correct person. The person that receives that incident report has to be in a position where they can do something about that risk. We've switched to a system now where the incident reports come in instantly. As soon as the support worker completes it, their supervisor sees it, and they can look at it in very brief fashion to find out, is this a run-of-the-mill incident where nothing really happened? Was it a near miss or something like that, where a type of risk that was expected and we already have all the structures in place to handle this kind of thing? They're just informing me of something. Or was somebody injured here? Do I need to follow up immediately? Does somebody need to debrief about this over the phone? Are they okay to work tomorrow because of what has just happened here? So the turnaround time on the incident reports has to be very fast in order for safety and risk to be adequately addressed. This proper structures around reporting have to be in place such that nothing gets ignored or lost in a stack of papers. There also needs to be that shared understanding between the support worker and the supervisor that we want to know all of this information. We can only improve things if we know about it. And so there's nothing to be lost by sharing with us what went sideways that day, because part of that incident report is what went well, what worked, what didn't work, and then we can all learn from it together. Scope very much tries to demonstrate itself as a learning organization, that when things go sideways, it's not about assigning blame, it's about learning what happened here, how can we reduce the likelihood of this going forward and make life better for this individual and also the support workers that are with them all the time. One of the things that can come up too in safety discussions is the topic of burnout or compassion fatigue and things like that. And so at Scope, we're very intentional about reframing that conversation. What can happen is if an organization develops an attitude towards burnout that it's going to happen, and when you get to that point you need to be off work, it's not very constructive or helpful as far as moving forward, because as my supervisor shared with myself and many of the other employees, that idea of being burnt out, you're kind of at a dead end, and where do you go from there, kind of thing. Instead, it is really good to look at the idea that for all of us to be effective in our role, it's good to have a good work and life balance, be refreshed for work, come in with that positive attitude and everything like that. And when life happens, like outside of work, and you're having difficulty not bringing that to work, absolutely, you need to take a day, take a day.